Okay, yeah, I've got a voice, so I'm going to get started a little bit a little bit early, excuse me. And let me see who just joined me. Hi, Kristen, glad to see you, and Trevor as well. And let me go in there and make sure that I get everybody muted. Good, got several of us. Great to see you here. I am getting started about 6 or 7 minutes early, okay? And I want to just do some kind of housekeeping, and then we'll move on to the case that we're going to work on today. I just want to make sure that everybody understands, that here we are. We are in week 3, okay? And today is, of course, the 20th. Now, the second thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is, and I say this each class, I'm working ahead in the Excel cases. We're going to work today on case number 8. Case number 8 is Action Plastics. And then I'll spend just a little bit of time as kind of a preview for case number 9. Now, that being said, the assignments that are due, for example, everybody should have uploaded case 7. And all of you have this option. You have the option of uploading the key, because once I go through that case, I have the key, and you can do that. You have the option of trying to do it on your own and submit something, and that's fine with me. I'm not going to count off points if you try to do something, try to work on a case and you flub it up. That's okay. All right. The whole point here is, number one, if you knew how to do all of these, you'd be teaching the course, and so I treat those like a workshop. All right, there's skills and concepts that you need to understand, and I want you to, so I don't put you through any guessing games. It's the same way that I take the approach with the exams. They're open book, they're open note. Okay, they are to me like an instruction manual, and I don't believe this is a course in memorization. It's a course dealing with business problem analysis, and the exams are open book, open note, simply because if you're at work one of these days and you run into something, you're not going to sit around and you're going to go find somebody who can help you out. All right? So I understand that. And I believe I have the questions structured as such, and we're using textbooks as such that you can focus on the practical example. You see, the great dilemma that I have, the great problem that I have, and we all have as faculty in business, or if we were in the College of Nursing, or if we were over in criminal justice, or we were teacher education, is that in a professional program, it's almost like we're trying to expose you to as many concepts and tools, etc., because I don't know what you'll end up doing or where you'll end up working. Now, if it's accounting, that's a different story. The accounting students and the accounting program has the luxury of knowing that someday you'll take a thing called the CPA, and they have a good idea what's on it. Okay? I don't have that. So when we do these cases, especially this course on business problem analysis, we're going to try to focus on the most common types of problems that a company encounters. And we're going to show you how we can use the spreadsheet to put some meat on that skeleton and to see some numbers, and then to depict it visually so we can see the problem and maybe begin to consider some solutions. It's to be a good business person, required to be good, meaning to be successful or to build a sustainable business, means you have to understand two things. First of all, you always have to be asking yourself, what are we doing? What's our value proposition? That is, why do people pay us for doing this or selling this to them? Okay. And number two, how can we get better internally? How can we do better with our operations? And let me add number three. Number three is this. When you make a decision, and that's what you're going to be doing, when you make a decision, it's never black and white. It's shades of gray. And you could see it as a continuum. On one end, there is a decision that was just, you knocked it out of the ballpark. On the other hand, the worst decision you ever made. And somewhere in between, with every problem you'll encounter, there's a range in there where, well, you know, it wasn't the perfect, but you did the best you could. Okay? So, all that being said, I treat these courses like a workshop. Okay? You'll notice, for example, I've got some things here like Wolfram on the golden ratio. And you remember we did ratios back with case number 4, where we looked at Dabney Financial and we compared CVS versus Walgreen, and we talked about why we use accounting ratios. Here's a short history. These, you know, I don't give you quizzes on these. Okay? I don't give you a test over that stuff. So why is it there? It's there because part of being a professional is that you engage in self-development, and you don't have to be made to do it. It becomes just a natural thing for you. So I provide those resources there for you for that very reason. And with every case we have, with just about every type we address really the most common business problems, I'll provide those resources for you. It's your choice to do them. The way this course is structured is that on the surface it looks very easy, but the truth is it's not so easy. Part of what I'm here trying to coach you towards is time management. For example, if you're an athlete and you're going out of town, all right, you can, and you're going to stay at a motel. And if the motel has internet access, for example, fantastic, that's great. Maybe you need to work ahead. That would be up to you. You can work on assignments and upload them any time of the hour of any day until the point they're due. So I'm not really happy when someone says they want to turn in their assignment late. It's all here, okay? Now, all that being said, I do this because I respect you as adults. I respect you as many of you who are really paying a price to get through college. You work or you have athletics or something. And so I see that initiative on your part, and I want to help augment it. And maybe I can help take some pressure off you may have with other courses. This is not a course about, you know, making you guess things. It's about problem analysis and understanding a problem. Okay? So at this point, you know, we're at week number 3, and you should have uploaded XLS5. But the truth is, we've done everything up to we've done all the cases up to XLS7, which includes the hardware nuts case, and we did that last week. And now today we're going to look at case number 8, which is Action Plastics, and we're faced with another type of business problem, and we're going to see a little bit more about conditional formatting. And then I'll take some time today to speak about case number 9 that's going to be coming up. Now, here are some more resources, and these really fit back in with the town of Clintwood, that case. which was case number 5, where you had to, you remember we took the budget at 2008 and we had some assumptions and we extrapolated it out to make a budget for 2009 and for 2010. Okay, and we used the scenario manager to get some different looks so that we could have a zero balance, which is what we wanted, or a surplus as opposed to a deficit. And so we worked through using the name manager and doing some cell referencing. And we're going to work now today with conditional formatting and do some more cell referencing. Okay? So you should have uploaded everything up to case number 7 at this point. Now, again, you have a text quiz coming up. Excuse me. This will be over the Stephen Few textbook and over chapter 5. Okay. And when you see things like multiple due dates, there are times when I have to provide some accommodation. Okay. And so you'll see those, but when you click on there, you find you can go here to the modules or go to the syllabus area. You'll see the date. Okay. Now, just to kind of see us ahead at week 4. Okay, you'll be getting ready for exam 1, part 1, and I provide you a sample for that. Okay, and then for exam 1, part 2, which is the hands-on part, I provide you some instructions, and then of course XLS 6 is due. But you should have already uploaded everything up to XLS X7, case 7, which is hardware nuts. So this week we're going to work on action plastics. Okay. So I hope everybody is kind of understanding this and where we're going to from here. And again, let me say this. I appreciate it when I get emails from somebody who will say, "I'm sorry I can't be there. I have a track meet," or "I'm sorry I'm ill and I can't be there." The reason I record these is so that if you have that contingency arise, you can still see the lecture. You can still hear the class. You can find out what was going on. Or as there are 8 of you today, you can beam in and hear the live broadcast. One of the other things I want to give you some coaching on is viewing these screencasts. Now, as you're aware now, I'll do a screencast, I'll convert it to a YouTube file, and then I'll post the link to the YouTube file over in announcements. Okay? And our class session here, for example, is an hour and 15 minutes. And let me say very candidly, if you sit and you watch the whole thing, that's fine. But you always do have the option of saying, okay, I want to take this in chunks. I want to look at 20 minutes of it and then okay, and I stopped at the 20-minute mark, for example, and then I'll look at. So if you want to chunk it out like that, that's up to you. How you view it is your choice. Now, I believe that you should be able to get transcripts, but I'm just not sure about that. I think that you can get a transcript of it, and which would be the ideal, but it may be that's just not what's happening. So, view these, all right? The other final bit of coaching is have the textbook with you. If you don't have the textbook with you, a lot of what I have to say and a lot of what I have to show you does you absolutely no good. So that's why we have the textbook. Okay. Well, that'll kind of those are some things, housekeeping kinds of things I wanted to share with you to get us rolling. And again, those of you who are joining live, I'm so happy to see you. And trust me, and you can spread the word with your other friends or other colleagues you're taking the class. Yes, I know every single person who logged in. Yes, I see the data on every single person, whether they watched the screencast or not. Okay, I have all of that data. The website provides me those analytics. Okay, so I'm aware, and it's your course, it's your time, it's your money, and I've structured it as such that you make use of it to the extent that you want. And certainly, if you have questions when we're in one of these sessions, it's easy. You can raise the question, and I'll try to answer it. Okay? Or if you have a question by email, you can shoot me an email as well. The other thing is, you'll note, and I want to point this out to you. We'll just go up here for a moment into the announcements area. And this is just to reinforce some things that I wanted to say. Is you're going to see three types of announcements over here. One is a recording. That's obvious. I've done a screencast. I've saved it. You can go look at it. Then here are invitations. The link you used to get over here today. And then there's the one for Thursday, the 22nd. Then you see links to virtual office hours. During virtual office hours, you can come in. If I can answer a question for you, I try. I can screen share. The truth is, I can do everything in the virtual office that I can do if I'm over in Shawnee. Okay? So you don't have to walk in if you don't want to. And of course, I try to answer my emails within the day. Well, let's go back here let's go into the files section. Okay? And we're going to look for Action Plastics, and that would be XLS8. And I want to show you, first of all, let's see. I want to show you the student files for it, and then talk about the case and the kind of the algorithm. Here are the Solvent 6.0 student files. And these contain what I call the skeleton files. Okay, getting you started. And I'm going to open this up. Okay, and here's what we have. We have a list of names and dependents. This case involves an insurance reconciliation system or billing system. And its case number 8. It starts over on page 76 in your textbook. Okay. Now, as usual, if you look through the case, you'll see they start off, with the problem and the management skills and the Excel skills, and then they tell you some information about the company, and then they begin to give you information, data that. And so this is like a word problem, okay? And then you come down to the tasks, and they say, here are the tasks that we want you to complete, okay? And so then we would begin to do that work and fill all that information in, all right? Now, let's take a look at a finished product, and you'll notice, because on my screen, you're in the student screen, but because I'm casting my screen, I'm assuming you can probably see things that you can't just log in, like this file here. Okay, I've got it unpublished. You may not even see the Northampton file. I just would have to see what that looks like. But as you could tell, I worked through these cases. I tweaked them, and to see how well I think they look. Now, here's one that's published, and we worked on it in the in 1123 section B, which met yesterday. And while I'm thinking of it, while I'm thinking of it, you're always welcome, in the on-ground situation. Like for section B, their ground-based section meeting is on Mondays. And then, of course, you guys have yours on Thursday. So if you said, I just really need to be in the room, need in the classroom, you're welcome. If it will work out for your schedule, okay, if you're fine, okay. So I can pretty much accommodate anybody in terms of what their comfort level is going to be. Now let's look at this, and we'll download it, okay. And then we're going to talk about how this thing's put together. Now, the first thing I want to do is make sure, and I want to save this to my desktop. As you say, is this what I'll be turning in? Yeah. Or if you want to try, after having seen the screencast, to try to work on the file yourself, be my guest. You're not going to break the machine. I'm not going to go through there and take 15 points off because you didn't do it right or anything like that. That's your choice to do that, okay? But I want you to see good practices and let you see how we put it together and deal also and work also as well as the business problem that we're dealing with. So I'm going to put this document on a desktop. I'm going to save it, okay? Then I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to go back down into my desktop. There it is. And I'm going to open it up on the desktop. And if you want, you can rename it or whatever. The reason I download the file, open it, then close it down to the desktop, and then reopen it at the desktop level is because if you don't, you'll create a system file that neither you or I will be able to do anything with once the thing's been uploaded. So just save yourself that pain. And you say, you do this I have to, because every week I have somebody who writes me and says they can't upload the file, and they send me it as a system file. So let's be careful. Okay, now over on page 76, they told us about Action Plastics, the company, what they do, all this business. Then at the bottom of page 76, we have our protagonist there, and this person is going to help the company automate their billing system. And this is a situation where the company offers employees insurance, okay, and the company pays a share of the insurance, and then the employee pays the difference. Now, sometimes the plan is employers will offer what they call a cafeteria plan, where everybody gets basic insurance, but if you want to have a preferred provider, go to any doctor you want, or this or that, you can pay a little more. Okay, but I know it's a rare company that pays for your insurance completely because it's expensive. Okay, and these figures that you see in here, the company share, that's pretty real. So insurance is expensive. It's a fringe benefit that's offered, and again, it's one of these things for companies that they really have to make some hard decisions on. But so in this case, we have a situation where the company bears the cost, and then, okay, also ask the employee to share by putting in a certain amount if the employee has has dependents. Okay, and we'll see this. Let's look first of all at the structure of this worksheet. See what we got going on here. Okay, here's the title section. Okay, then we have the documentation section. So far, so good. Then we have now we have the assumptions. And let's look at these. We have the company shares is $240. If the employee has no dependents, then the employee doesn't have to put any matching in. If the employee has one dependent, they have to pay $72. And if the employee has two or more dependents, they pay 200 bucks. Now, obviously, yeah, the person who has 5 or 6 kids, they're coming out like a winner on this one. And the employee share is probably the additional amount charged by the insurer, and the company's saying, okay, we will insure you, the employee, but if you want to add people to your insurance, you have to pay. Okay, so that's all pretty. This is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, now we're going to go back and look at one of our old friends here, and that's the name manager, because we've used the name manager. So let's click on formulas. Okay, and you'll see the name manager under defined names. And as we've said before, one of the first and most important things you can learn about cell referencing is to define a variable within a certain cell, okay, so that you can use it more easily than just simply, trying to do cell references when you put together an equation, or if you put together a conditional statement. All right, let's look on the name manager and we'll take a look at it. Okay, and here we've got the first is the company share, and that's in J1, and there is the value. Then we come down to the employee with 0 dependents, and that is defined in J2, and that the value is 0. Here's the employee share with 1 dependent, and that's in J3, and then the value is 72. And then we have the employee share of 2 or more, which is $200, and that's in J4. Now I want to focus your attention quick. Let me expand this dialog box out a little bit. This part that it refers to that's pretty intuitive. Now, you see this thing says scope. In this case, the scope is the workbook. These cell definitions, these cells are set and defined within the worksheet. You say, could I do it for the whole workbook? Yes, well, these are for the whole workbook. Could I do it just for the worksheet? Well, yeah, I could. I could click on this, okay, and then when I make my choice, I could go ahead and edit it and make it just the worksheet. But the value of this, of the name manager, is let's say you have, you're doing quarterly reports or weekly reports or daily reports, you can set up a template, if you will, by cell definitions, okay? And then when one value changes, it changes everything, all right? Now, let's talk about the assumptions that are up here, and let's look at them and just have the values. And then we're going to come down here into, and this is done fine. It has a nice little tint in there, that fill that gets our attention. All right, and we'll come down here and make sure here in the workplace area that in the output and computation area that we have something that looks nice, and that kind of purplish, it may not always show up well. So since this is for work or for business, I would probably do a blue. You're not going to go too wrong with that. And even that may be a little bit too dark. So I'd probably stick with this more conservative color. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start at cell A19, and then I'm going to go from A19 to F20. I'm going to highlight that area, and then I'm going to close off the table with a fill. Okay, so this just adds to it and makes it a little bit better, and it closes the table. So the end user or the reader has gone from here to here to here and then down to here. Now I may want to do something like get some totals, Okay, so I'm gonna come here to cell A20, and I'm gonna put total. Okay, and then I'm gonna bold it, and then I'm going to put I'm going to come over here and get the, and we know the company share, so I'm going to use this auto sum, and I'm going to move it back, and I'm going to do the auto sum and make it D8 to D18. Okay, it's D8 to D18, and now we know what the company spends, and we'll come over here for the employee share, and that's E8 to E18. And then I'm going to come over here to the total paid, and I have those figures. Now, those figures are those totals. I'm going to bold them. And you say, why do you spend so much time with formats and bolding this stuff? For this very simple reason. As you're reading through the Stephen Few textbook, you should be seeing how people can misinterpret charts or in all the graphical devices we have, tools we have to provide a visual picture. Okay, and so we always try to do a little bit of tweaking to make sure that what we have is accurate, and number two, it communicates, because it always tells a story. Now I'm going to put my cursor here on D20 and on D20 through F20, and I'm going to make sure they're in the middle, that they're centered. I'm going to do the same thing with all of these cells here, starting at D8 and going down to F18. But make sure they're centered. Why? It just looks cleaner. Now, if I really want to spiff this up and make it look nice, I have another thing I can do. These cells right here, I'm going to start at D20 and go over to F20, and I'm going to make them currency. And then I'm going to decrease the decimals. Okay? Now that way we know I'm talking about money. And I've done this without really cluttering the look. So we have a nice clean look here. Okay? Now there's something else about this table that if you look at it, you can see that it's been sorted. Okay? It's been sorted on the basis of employee share or on the basis of number of dependents. Now I'm going to take my cursor and go to A7 and highlight all the way down to F18. Okay? A7 down to F18. And then I'm going to come over here into the editing section, and I'm going to come to sort and filter. And I want to take some time for just a second here to make sure that you understand the difference between a sort and a filter. They're not the same. When we sort, we're working with columns, or what we would call variables, or what we would call dimensions. And we're arranging the data on some criteria. Now, right here I have a primary sort. That's the first one. And I'm doing it on the basis of dependence. And I'm doing it largest to smallest. Now, when you do a sort, always make sure it says my data has headers. So a lesson there also is you should never have a table of data that doesn't have headers. Okay? Because one, it stops the logical flow. And number two, I don't know what those numbers mean. Okay? So that's the primary sort, is on the number of dependents, and we've gone from largest to smallest. We could have done smallest to largest, but we did largest to smallest. Then we did what we call a secondary sort, and we did this on the last name. Now, if I want to add a level, I just click there, and you can see it would produce a third sort, which is what we call a tertiary sort. But we're not going to do that. Okay? We're going to delete the level, and we're back to where we were originally. Now, I want you also to notice that we had on the last name, we alphabetized it. Now, if we wanted to remove it, it's simple. We go in and remove that from the cells. So these have been sorted. Sorting is different than filtering. When I do a filter, I'm working with records, okay? Not variables. So let's take your cursor and highlight A7 all the way over to F18. Then come back here to the far right and look on the sort and filter and click filter, and you'll see the little filter buttons go hot. You'll see them pop up, and then you can click on there and you'll see I can eliminate all of them. I can sort them by color if I have it, or I can do text filters. I can just simply say I just want to see Jackson. It doesn't matter. I'll click OK. Now over here on the number of dependents, again, we're sorting. I'm going to I'm going to deselect everything, and then I'm going to select everybody who has 2 dependents, and I get those 2 records. Now, I realize that with the small, limited number of records that we have, the importance of this just doesn't flow through. But if I got 500 records, it certainly does, because someone may say, well, we're making a change the policy, so let's identify everybody who has only 2 dependents. And we use the filter to get records. Okay, and then if we want to, then we go back here. You can see the little filter icon, and I'll select all again. And then I'll come back over here and the filter, and I'll toggle it off. Okay, so far so good. Now, I could, if I want to, do a chart with this data, although it's not going to really be that meaningful. Okay, and again, imagine you didn't have like 10 cases, but you had 50, 100, 150, 200. Then these really become important. There's one other thing we can do with this, and we'll do this. Take your cursor and highlight all the way from A7, excuse me, to F18. Okay, and then click Insert and click Pivot Table, and we'll get the Pivot Table dialog box. It'll give us the range we're working with, and we want to put it in a new worksheet. Now, if we want, we can kind of mix a database type of database approach, which we have here with a table, and maybe do some computation. So if I'm interested again in this things of dependence, all right, it's very simple. I'll take and I'll put that down there in the values, and it gives me the sum of the dependents, but I'm going to go to the value field setting, and I'm going to get a count. Then I'm going to do that by last name. Now let's try and see what it looks like in the column. Usually it's not going to look that great. Okay? We're going to try it over here. And then let's go ahead and do the sum. There we are. So we have the sum of dependents, and of course we can add, some borders in here, whatever. And there we are. We visualize the data, and if we want to, we can click on the sum of dependents, and we can, let's see, that's our row labels. Click on the sum of dependents, and let's go back over here to the values and the value field setting, and we chose the sum. I'm going to show the values as good here. Let's do this. Put your cursor inside of A4 and go down to A14, pardon me, to B14. And then let's come over here and see if we can filter these down a little bit more. I don't think it'll let us do a custom sort. Let's do this. Put your cursor in B4 and come all the way down to B14. And then let's try some conditional formatting. And I'm just going to do because that implies I'm going to do a gradient fill. I'm not going to use this because this implies better to worse. And I'm just going to use a gradient fill. And there I have a nice visualization of the data. And I can see who's got 3, who's got 2, etc. Pretty simple. So I've depicted these. I've summarized them a little bit. So I've done some nice work. Okay. Now the textbook gives us some tasks and asks us to do some conditional formatting. Now the reason you need to have your book with you is because I'm going to refer you over here to page 78. After every case, the authors has a kind of a tutorial, they call it. And here in this case, they're showing us about conditional statements. A conditional statement's a pretty simple critter. The equal if invokes that we're doing a conditional statement, and then we have a condition. If the condition is met, then the action, if true, so if the condition's met, there's some action. If the condition is not met, then we get then some action or output if it's false. Okay? And they show us that again in the middle of 78. Then we come down to the bottom of page 78, and they show us a nested conditional statement. And in this case, it's equal if the condition, the action or the output if true, action or output if false, and then comma, and then if, and then another parentheses, condition, action if true, action if false. You see, this sounds a lot like Guardian Payroll when we did that one. Yes, the if and. Okay, and we did an if and. We also did a nested conditional statement. Okay, and then you come and they continue on, and then make sure at the end of the statement that you have the right number of parentheses so everything's balanced out. Now over on page 79, you're going to see one of the greatest arguments for the name manager. Look at that. It looks like a jumbled mess. Okay, if, okay, F16, whatever that is great. Now, when you go back, if you really want to see a lot, kind of a really high level of conditional statements and using nesting, go back and look at Guardian Payroll. That's number 3, the one where he did the FICA, and I give you an explanation in English, and then I take one of the people who was in that and I walk you through month by month of how their FICA was determined. And so you'd want to look at that, okay? No big deal. But again, you can see it. Better to use the name manager, okay, than try to always just have these cells that you refer to, and you'll get mixed up, you'll get confused, and you'll have trouble. Well, let's go in here now and start to look at, we have this assumptions table, and let's see how we use the name manager to help us. Here's the company share. Now I'm going to click on D8, and what does it say? Equal company share. Okay. Now if I wanted to use that, I'd click on formula. I'd put using formula, and I could put equal company share. And see, it's going to show me this, all right? And then it's going to go, and it's going to show me the 240. One of the other nice things about the assumption table is this: if the company's share changes, or any of these other figures change here in the assumptions, once it's plugged in, we just make the change and we're good. It's done. Not impressive if you have 10 records, but quite impressive and helpful if you have 1,000 or 200 or 300. So look at this first one. Here we've used equal the company's share. And I'm going to click at the formula bar. So this will go hot. It's 240. And then we just drag it all the way down to D18. Now we come to the employee share. And it gets a little bit complicated. So I'm going to click in E8. And I'm going to copy this and put it on a notepad and size it up. And we'll take a look for just a moment. Okay, now this says if C8, okay, and let me get to this for just a moment. I'm going to click the escape, get out of this, and then I'll open this back up. If C8, okay, is greater than or equal to 2, then the employee share is 2 or more. It refers them to that cell, and you'll see the value of 200. Then comma, if C8 equals 1, then the employee share 1 dependent. And you'll see that when we come down to somebody who has 1 dependent, you're going to see that. Then if C8 equals 0, okay, the employee share 0 dependents. And you'll see each of those amounts. So this amount right here for this condition would be the 2 or more, and that would be $200. For this condition of 1 dependent, okay, it's $72. And then for 0 dependents, the employee share 0. And we make sure that the parentheses are balanced. So we have 1, 2, this is how I do it. 1, 2, 3 headed to the right. And I have 1, 2, 3 that are headed to the left. I'm balanced off. I'm doing Boolean algebra. Okay? So now I've got the employee share. And see how much nicer and cleaner it is when I use the name manager? It's much easier to understand. Now, we're also going to then do a summary, and that is this equals the sum of D8 to E8. In other words, the company share plus the employee share is the total premium. All right, and then we would just drag and drop that all the way down. And it will The rows will change, but the columns will stay the same. And then down here, I use the sum function to get E18, F8 to F18. Now, I want to point another design principle for you when you design a spreadsheet, okay? Notice that I always have the total is the last column or it's the last row. Now, if you design something that has subtotals, that's one thing, but make sure that you indicate that that's exactly what you're looking at. Okay? Because if you don't, you're gonna create some problems for yourself. So we know the total premium. Okay, we know how much the company's share is, we know how much the employee's share is, and we have the amount, okay, that the company pays out. And that, you know, and that's pretty much what's in that case. But again, see how using the name manager helped me, okay? And when you write a conditional statement, and you've seen me do this before, okay? I work on the notepad and then I cut and paste it in. Now I might even go so far as do this. And I'll put C8 equals number of dependents. And that way I know I'm looking at, you know, the column C, and this is even better is to put column C equals the number of dependents. So I kind of keep myself straight on what in the world am I working with. Now, if you wanted, you could go ahead and, you know, input, you know, you could try to use the name manager and name a range on here for the dependents. Okay? And I'm not sure we're going to get the result that we want. So I'm going to diminish this down. I'm going to put my cursor on C8 and come all the way down to C18. And I'm going to click Name Manager, and I'm going to click New. And it will say Dependents. Okay, I'll click OK. And there they are. Now, I don't know, all right, if I'm going to be able, I'm going to try just this one cell. All right, let's do this just for kicks. Let's add on row in A19. I'm going to put let's put Kruger, and the last name is Kruger. You know where I'm going with this. And then it's Freddie, and Freddie has 4 dependents, or 3 dependents, and I'm going to put using a formula dependents. Okay, and I'm going to get a value. So that's not going to work for me with these different values. Only if it's an assumption or a fixed value is it going to do me good. Well, we weren't able to do that. Too bad. Because I know the temptation there is to try. Now, if I wanted to say the number of dependents for this Freddie and put a name for each of these, that's pretty unrealistic. Even with 10, you can see how onerous it becomes, and you'd have to do it for every employee. So you just leave those as the numbers and use these. Usually it's the assumptions that you want to use. And so, and that's case number 8. And we've done some conditional formatting. and I've got column C goes in, and then 8, and then I would put 8, the number 8 equals the row. That way I'm clear on what I'm doing. Now I could be old school about this if I wanted to, and I could go ahead and in here and put the $sign to indicate that I'm working with column C. But if there's consistency in this, it will do it automatically. And then we get the total premium. And that's D8. Okay? The sum of D8 to E8. And then we've got them down here. So no biggie there. That's case number 8. And I would click on it. I'm going to save it as, on my desktop, XLS 8. And it's going to tell me you have it all already existing, or yes. Now I'm going to close it off. All right. And then I'm going to upload it where it says upload XLS 8 here. You see, what's the quickest way to get there? The syllabus area is the quickest place. All right. And you're going to see upload XLS 8 here. Pardon me, XLS 8 is going to be down here. My apologies. Oh, there's 6, there's 7. XLS 8 here. And then just upload it, and you've done it. If you've been going along and following along as I work these cases, you should have uploaded everything up to XLS 8 because you've done the workshop. We've done that piece. Now let me say this also. These videos, okay, are there for you to look at as much or as little as you want. The files that you upload for the solutions are fine on these files for a simple reason. I'm always tweaking them, okay? I'm always doing some tanker, and you can see when you go in the files, you see, why do you have 3 or 4 of that number, case number 4? Because I was tinkering with it as I go along, okay? And so you should go ahead and upload, then that's number 8. Because I want us to spend some time here, okay, looking at case number 9, all right? And I want to talk about that. Case number 9 starts to move us into a little bit more sophisticated set of issues. All right? Now, the first thing I want you to do is this. If you're working on your device, let's say you want to make sure that you have the data analysis tool pack operative. Now I'm going to click open. Okay, and on my machine, I'm gonna click my device. I click data. Okay, and you'll see I have the solver, and I have data analysis. To get the data analysis tool pack on Excel, here's what you do: you click File, Options, Add-ins. If it's down here in the inactive, if it's down here in the inactive add-ons, okay, then you'll want to click on that. Let's say you want to click on the analysis tool pack. Now I'm going to put the analysis tool pack, and then I'll just show you this. I already have it installed, so there's no need for me to install it again. But I'm going to do the analysis tool pack VBA. I'll click that. I'm just showing you what the dialog box will look like. boom, and I get the dialog box. Okay, and then I choose what I want. Okay, you'll want to choose the analysis tool pack. And this we're gonna and this will enable us, once it's there, to work on case number 8. Now I'm going to click on the data analysis tool pack. I'm going to click on that, and it will show me all of these data analysis tools. These are statistical. These are tools to do statistical computation, ranging from the analysis of variance to simple t-tests to z-tests, etc. Okay. Yes, sir. All right. Well, let's close off number 8. And now we're going to look at case number 9. Now, in your book, again, this is why it's so important that you have your book with you. In your textbook, we're going to look at Karma Digital. Okay, this starts at page 81. And the problem is we want to determine a relationship between defects and production value. I have some resources for you that I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about, okay? And one of them is over at the supplemental website. And you'll find that supplemental website up there in those in the welcome module. And I'm gonna go Control F. Move this over. And I'm going to do XY. And it's going to take me down to the XY paradigm paragraph. Now, this XY PowerPoint is something that you will probably want to look at, because you're going to have a quiz. You might need to know what that's all about. And so I'm going to download this because it's a pretty good size file. And I want to talk for a few minutes about that, what we call the XY paradigm. Now, this is the most didactic I'm going to get by giving you death by PowerPoint. But I want to make sure that you know the resources there, and I can go ahead and walk you through it. Okay? And we'll talk about then the XY chart. And we have the thing called the dependent variable, also known as the variable of interest. And that's the vertical axis, or the ordinate, i.e. known as the y. Then the x-axis, which is known as the abscissa, okay? And that's the independent variable. Now, the dependent variable is also known as the variable of measure. Let's say, for example, I'm looking at the population of the United States from 1950 to 1960. Okay, population estimates. The dependent variable is the population. The independent variable, or the manipulated variable, is the year. Okay? And so, yeah, if you really want to have fun, I challenge you. Go out and get yourself a T-shirt that says, I know ordinate and I know abscissa. Do you? These are based on the Cartesian system. Probably, I've been here before. Okay. Now, when we have the XY analysis, or the XY chart, okay, where we're looking at the relationship of two variables, okay, we look at changes according to the slope, the rise and the run. You say, oh no, this sounds a lot like the equation of a straight line. Yes, it is. Okay, and we're going to see that. And so we're always trying to figure out, okay, to what extent do two variables tend to flow together? Now, for example, the temperature outside, and the consumption, you're at a ball, let's say you're at a major league ballpark, and the temperature that day at game time, and how does that relate to sales of cold drinks? My hunch is the sales of cold drinks will go up if the weather's warm. If the weather's cold, they'll go down. Now, if it's beer, it probably won't matter. I'm making a joke. But again, we want to look at the slope, the rise and the run. The rise is, how high it goes. The run is how far it goes out. You remember that triangle. And we have three types of linear trends. Okay. Here's a positive correlation. As Y goes up, X goes up. Okay. And we see, for example, as we see this in the developing world, this is an interesting thing. In developing countries, as their income levels go up, the incidence of type 2 diabetes increases. So the good news is we have more people in the middle class than we've ever had in the history of the world. We also have more people who have type 2 diabetes than we've ever had in the history of the world. When people are making more money, they eat better. Okay? Now, here's a negative correlation. Okay? As home interest rates go, as mortgage rates go up, sales of new homes go down. Why? It costs more money. Okay? Now, if interest rates go down, then you'll see we sell more houses. Then we have no correlation, no, a null or a neutral. They just don't tend to relate. Now here's some examples. One of them is the so-called yield curve. This is what we call an inverted yield curve, and that is where interest rates are higher on the short term than they are on the long term. You would normally think that the longer term would have a higher rate because it has more risk. But when people believe more in today than they do tomorrow, you'll see, and there are various times when we've seen inverted yield curves. When we see inverted yield curves on bonds, for example, it's usually a signal that we're getting ready to go into some rough economic times because people are parking their money in bonds and money market certificates as opposed to stocks. Then we have the normal, where K is the required return. We have the normal curve as far as yield curve. Here's interest rates versus stock prices. The higher the interest rates, the lower the common stock prices. The opposite is just true. And then, of course, I had this over here on time. So it should be no surprise to everybody that when we started to dealing with financial crisis and the government bailed out the people who were about to go under, the big banks, and then the feds kept the interest rates low, which the Federal Reserve has, we started to see share prices starting to come up because it was cheaper for companies to operate. They could borrow money at a cheaper rate. Now, one of the other phenomena that we have here is the risk-reward paradigm. And that risk-reward paradigm says, okay, the higher the risk I take, the greater my reward. The less risk I take, the lower the return. And this is what we call the security market line for stocks and bonds. I mean, for stocks. Really, I would say probably money market too. Then we come into another thing called counter-cyclicals. Now again, we're still assuming there's a linear relationship, i.e. a line, but notice what's happening. Okay, counter-cyclicals are stocks that are up when everybody else is down. and down when everybody else is up. When a stock, let's say, what would be a good counter-cyclical? Minerals. Companies that deal with minerals. Okay, when the stock market's doing well, those stocks tend to be down. When the stock market is going down, the stocks that are for minerals tend to go up because it's owning tangible stuff. So we have some things called counter-cyclical financial assets. Okay, and that's the W. Then we have the M. And that's where some stocks are low when the market's high, and then high when the market's low. These are, again, stock type M. They're counter-cyclical. They tend to go the opposite direction as opposed to the market. Then we have this notion of diversification. We put together a portfolio that's based upon M and W, and we get a fairly even return. Another one of these things that with the XY principle that applies is what we call complementary goods, buns and hot dogs. Okay, beer and pretzels, pizza and soft drinks, burgers and fries. Then here's contribution margin. We've done that. We've done break-even point. And up here, of course, is profit. Down here's a loss. And where cost and revenue meet, that's the break-even point. And we did this in Badger Jams, but it's based on that idea that there's this intersection between cost and revenue. And then I've just got a little summary here for you to take a look at. But this is important to understand these relationships, okay? And so I will want you to be looking at that. And of course, it might show up. Now, I'm going to see if I've got anything else over here that I could show you that would be a nice thing that would help build this a little bit. Let me see here. Don't think I do. So let's go back and we'll click back over. All right. Now I'm going to go back to the files. Now let's go back to those student files. Solve It 6.0 student files. And we're going to open that, we're going to download that, and we're going to look at Karma Digital. Now this is about a company, okay, that's a manufacturer, and they've been tracking the amount of items that they make CDs. They make DVDs, excuse me. Now, they've been tracking how much they produce versus the percent of their production that's defective. In other words, they produce it, they ship it, and then somebody calls and says, hey, you got some defective product. And we're going to look at two techniques. Okay, on Thursday, we'll look at a scatter diagram, and then we'll do a linear trend. But always what we want to do is put in perspective, first of all, what we're looking at, okay? And we're going to do a scatter diagram we're we're going to do a scatter diagram on Thursday. But the first thing I'm going to do is with the production volume, I'm going to put my cursor here on B10 and come all the way down to B19. Okay, and I'm going to do conditional formatting, and I'm going to use the data bars. Okay, so I've got that gradient fill. Now I'm just kind of getting a visual picture of these data. Okay, and I'm going to come here to C10, excuse me, and come down to C19, and I'm going to do conditional formatting again, and I'm going to use data bars, but this time I'm going to use a different color, and I'm going to look for the pattern. Now I think if I were to ask you, is there a pattern in these data, you'd say yes. And that pattern is, it seems that as the production volume goes up, the percent defective is going up. You can see it right there. Okay, so just on this very rough and dirty look, I'm saying that, yeah, the more stuff I produce, the more junk I produce. So there's something's not right. Now this is kind of a classic quality control problem, okay? Because if something's wrong with the product and you haven't fixed it, the more of them you make, well, the more junk you've got out there. So now, to put this in perspective also, and we're just kind of doing some preliminary work with this file, I would do this. Right here in D, cell D, I'm going to put those B10, and I'm going to put a $sign in front of the B. And I'm going to put it times C10. I'm going to put a $sign in front of the C so it knows I'm going to be working in the column. Boom. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put parentheses in there and then decrease. Okay. Pardon me. I don't want to do times. Okay. And I want to divide. Oh, well, to get that, that's fine. I'm going to put the, that should be a percent. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the C10 and I'm going to divide that by 100. I think that'll get us. Yeah. And then scroll it all the way down. Drag and drop it, excuse me. Now I'm going to check my number here. I'm suspicious of what I got. So I'm going to put equal 0.015 times 3 million. Let's see what I get. Okay, I get 45,000. Now, look at this. These are the raw. This is the raw number of percents. These are percents. They don't look very. They're yeah. Okay, that's not good. But when you put it in raw numbers, and just imagine, for example, if for every unit you expect to make $2 of profit. Well, this year you lost 90,000 on junk. And you could just do the math. So quality control is an extremely important issue within a company. Okay, and we've just done a little bit of a preliminary look at this, and we did it. We did a little bit of a chart, and then we put the raw amount, and I might have the cost per defective. And here's the deal. Let's say I send a shipment out. If 1.5% is defective, and I ship 1,000 units, then there's a good chance I have somewhere between 10 and 15 units that are bad, DVDs. Well, they'll come back, and we'll have to pay probably for the shipping to receive them. So we paid to send them. We made them. They were junk. We sent them out the door. We paid for that. Then they got sold, and then they were returned. We had to probably absorb that, and we lost the profit, and we have our vendor probably not real happy with us. They would say, can't you get any better at making DVDs than that? Okay, and we might lose a customer. If it's Walmart and they see this going on year after year, Walmart, if they get too many returns of a product, they go to the vendor and say, get this fixed or we won't carry your product. Why would they? Because the people that, when somebody buys something from a Walmart, they're not mad at the people who made the product, they're mad at Walmart. So you can see how this can become a really kind of tough, somewhat devastating thing. This might be your profit margin on this. Well, we figured this is your net profit. That's a killer. At this point now, you're losing $500,000. You're losing close to $500,000 a year. You're losing almost $600,000. That's a lot. And we can just, to dramatize it, let's just go ahead and we'll start here at D10. We'll go down to D19. And I'm going to use the conditional formatting, and I'll do the data bars. I use a gradient fill, and I'll make that red. And looky there. There's that pattern. Okay. One of the reasons I'll say this over and over, is I have you use the Stephen Few book, Show Me the Numbers, is so that you understand how important it is to depict data in an effective manner and an honest manner, because they're there to tell a story. Okay? And that's what they're intended to do. Now I want to show you something for just a second, and I know I'm going a little bit over, so if you have to leave, go ahead, because you can catch it on the back end, and I started early. Okay, so you can always see, but I had there was an article over at the New York Times, and let's see if I can find it. They did this incredible, I think I'll find it. There was one, it was on and they had it just incredibly that compared us internationally. Let's see. And I wanted to show you, not because I want you to get all stirred up about that, but because of the data. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just have to find that link and I'll show it to you on Thursday. But nonetheless, okay, now this is not the file you upload, but we're just playing around with it initially. And we've done conditional formatting, and what we see is the more stuff we make, the more junk we've got, and the more we're losing money. Now, what I'd like you to do between now and Thursday is to take a look over there at case 8, page 81, all right? And I want you to take a look, and we've talked about the ordinate, the abscissa, the X and the Y, the rise and the run, and we're going to use the equation for a line to create a thing called the line of best fit. And we're going to do we're going to use Excel's tool in linear regression. And you're going to find, and we're going to do a scattergram. You're going to find the linear discretion tool is really a nice, easy to use tool that helps us understand the relationship between two variables. And we'll see that. Well, it's 147, okay? and I started a little bit early, so I thank those of you who hung in here. And so we're a little bit of ahead. We're going to be ready for Thursday when we do case number 8. So this was just to kind of get us prepared for it. And I'd like you to take a read over there and understand the difference between the dependent variable and the independent variable. Okay? And then just read the case and take a look at it. And then I would encourage you to go over onto page 84 and take a look at the tutorial for the regression tool. It's a simple concept, but a very powerful tool that we can use. And we're going to do that, and we're going to try to see if we can find out what type of relationship there is, how much of a relationship there is between the two sets of data. We know just from looking at it using these gradient bars what that looks like. Okay? And we'll on Thursday we'll look at we'll do a scatter diagram, and then we will go through and we'll use the regression analysis tool to analyze where things are, and then we can use it also to make predictions for a trend or make a forecast. Okay, well, thank you so much. That'll pretty much do it. And I will see everybody in class on Thursday. Have a good one.